Today is November 15th, 2020. My name is Ana Quevedo, and I'm interviewing Melissa Palomo for the University Library Special Collections and Archives at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, hereafter abbreviated as UTRGV. This project is in partnership with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please know, Ms. Palomo, that this interview will be placed in the University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. The University Library Special Collections and Archives will archive your interview along with any other photographs and other documentation you are willing to share. UTRGV University Library will retain copyright and non-exclusive right to the interview and other materials you donate to special collections and archives at UTRGV. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record you consenting to make sure you agree with our interview procedures before we continue. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each question. Do you give University Library Special Collections and Archives at UTRGV consent to archive your interview and your materials at the UTRGV University Library?
Yes, I agree.
Do you grant UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives right, title, and interest in copyright over the interview and any materials you provide?
Yes, I agree.
Do you agree to allow UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
Yes, I agree.
Do you grant the University Library Special Collections and Archives consent to share your Zoom interview with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voices of the Pandemic Oral History Mini Project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
Yes, I agree.
As you recall, we previously filled out a pre-interview form. We use information from the pre-interview form to open research. The entire form is kept in a secure Voces server at the University of Texas at Austin. Before Voces sends it, UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives would have stripped out any contact information for yourself or family members. So that will not be part of your public file. Your public file will only be accessible at UTRGV University Library. The final 2 questions ask for your consent on what I just described. Do you wish for us to share the rest of your interview and your public file available to researchers at UTRGV University Library Special Collections and Archives?
Yes, I agree.
On occasion, UTRGV Special Collections and Archives and Voces receives requests from journalists who wish to contact our interview subjects. We only deal with legitimate news outlets. Do you give consent for us to share your phone numbers or your email with journalists?
Yes, I agree.
Thank you for your consent. Your experiences and stories mean a lot to us at UTRGV Special Collections and Archives. I look forward for what you have to say in the interview questions I will now ask. My first question to you would be to tell me a little bit about yourself.
I am a current student here at UTRGV. I did just transfer. I'm a junior, um, full-time student, full-time employee, and yeah.
Okay, how did you come to find out about the virus?
Social media. I seen this video of how the virus affected people in China and how like serious it was. So yeah, that's how I first heard about it.
Did you take any precautions when you found out about the virus, or did you think it wouldn't come to the United States?
Honestly, I didn't. I didn't even think it was going to come to the United States. I was very ignorant about it. So yeah.
What made you start taking the virus seriously?
Um, just hearing stories about people who actually like went through the virus and hearing like the deaths, the amount of people that have died, um, and how it was really hard to bounce back after like getting it. So, yeah.
And how did you feel about the lockdown?
At first, I was disappointed because it was very sudden. And I mean, obviously we had to follow the rules. And I mean, it was hard transitioning from, you know, going out and not being afraid of getting or catching this virus to staying indoors and, living in fear.
And how has school been since the pandemic began?
Extremely difficult. Just the fact that I went offline, I mean offline, I'm sorry, that I went online. Um, it's different. It's a different like way of receiving your education when you're used to, getting like in-person instruction.
Since you did say you just transferred schools, how was it your first semester at a different school, like transferring now to UTRGV?
Not the experience I wanted. Um, just because I mean everything's online. I was looking forward to actually going to school, to a new school, and having like face-to-face classes, getting used to a new environment, new people. So
Do you feel satisfied with how the university has handled COVID-19?
I would say so. Yeah. I've had pretty bad experiences, I'd say, with some of my professors. Um, when I spoke to them about, I mean, I did get this virus, so whenever I need a little bit of like help, with assignments and stuff like that, it's sometimes very hard to reach out to them and like get the help I need, or I felt like some of my professors weren't understanding my situation. So it's been kind of tough.
If you could have done anything differently by the way the university handled it, what would you have done?
Can you repeat that again, please?
So you're saying that you're having problems with like your professors and them not understanding your situation. So if you were like to change anything about how they've handled it, what would you have done?
Um, well, I mean, it's kind of hard because I have to understand that, I mean, I'm not the only one dealing with this pandemic and dealing with like the changes. Because I'm pretty sure as professors, they are having a hard time adjusting as well, since I mean, everybody has been used to like in-person instruction and, like teaching
Yeah.
for them. So I'd say, I don't know, maybe just be more like aware of emails or on top of things, just because it is like their profession to, be or have communication with their students, especially in times like these.
So since you mentioned that you're a full-time employee, are you considered an essential worker?
Yes.
And when did you go back to work?
I'm actually going back to work tomorrow. Um, after not working for 3 weeks, I got laid off because I had COVID.
So when did you get a job? Like, was it when we were in quarantine or was it after quarantine was lifted?
Mm, I'd say I think quarantine was still a thing. Yeah.
So if you didn't, did you experience like being on lockdown and after lockdown was lifted, them calling you back?
No, I actually applied
Oh, okay.
when we were in lockdown still. I mean, and that's why I was working like a little bit of hours, just because you know how like stores like change their hours, their
Yeah.
opening hours, closing hours, yeah. So it was during quarantine.
Oh, okay. So has your workplace taken precautions that have made you feel safe?
Yes, they have.
What are those precautions?
Um my boss actually provided us with like face masks, face shields, have like hand sanitizer all around the store. And I mean, one of our jobs was to like constantly sanitize the store. Every time like customers would come in, touch like a pin pad or touch products and stuff like that.
Yeah. So have customers respected the precautions set in your workplace?
Somewhat. Some of them do get mad that they are required to wear a mask before entering the stores.
So have you ever had to get into an altercation because someone didn't want to follow the rules?
I have it was actually this customer who didn't want to wear a mask. They were very upset at the fact that I had to let them know that before coming into the store they needed to put on their mask, and they were very stubborn on not wearing it because they believed that the virus wasn't real.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah.
Since you did mention you got sick, have you lost time and or income from work due to COVID?
Yes, I have.
So how did you contract the virus?
Um my parents went out of town for like 2 weekends straight, and I mean I was back home by myself, or actually with my brother, and once they came back, I noticed that my dad started feeling sick as well as my younger sister, so we went to go get tested. Um and that's how we contracted it. I mean through them.
And you currently
Uh,
live with your family, correct?
yes.
How many are you guys?
5 in total counting me.
And what were the first symptoms you or your family felt?
Fever and loss of smell and taste.
And you mentioned you got tested. So what type of test did you and your family take?
So first we had like the one where like they put like a cotton swab up your nose, and like blood taken out. We got
And
tested like 3 times.
why three times?
Because the first time that we got tested was just to check if like we did have it, of course. And my dad and my sister tested positive, but my mom, my brother, and myself tested negative. So then the second time that I want to go get tested was because I started like getting symptoms, but I still came out negative. So I'd say like the first 2 tests we did were like false negatives. So
Yeah.
then by the third time that I got tested again, you see, these tests are different. The first 2 tests were the same, but the third test that I got was this. It was like they still put on like the cotton swab like up your nose, but like it was deeper in and it really hurt.
Yeah.
Um, that one was very uncomfortable. And I mean, test results came in, and sure enough, I did come back positive. So yeah.
And you think the first two came out negative because they didn't properly do the swab test?
Um, I'd say so.
And all three tests, they were the swab testing and the blood test as well?
No, the first 2 were. The last one wasn't.
Oh, okay. And how did the doctors and nurses handle you coming out positive with COVID?
They handled it pretty well. Well, the doctor, but the one that like did the test run was very like harsh. Um, I don't know if it's because they constantly deal with, you know, um, clients that actually have COVID and they're scared or something, which makes sense. But I mean, after that, once I got prescribed medication from like the actual doctor, they were very like positive about like the recovery process and just like motivating because, like getting COVID is not like something to take lightly.
Yeah. Did you or your family ever feel sick enough to go to the hospital?
Yes.
Who?
My dad, he is currently on his 3rd week at the hospital. He's the one who, has been suffering the most. He's actually connected to the oxygen tank because he can't breathe on his own. So,
Did you ever have a negative experience with the hospital or like the clinics that you went to?
we did actually, when we went to the emergency room to take my dad so he can get checked, the doctors and nurses didn't speak Spanish. I mean, didn't speak Spanish, and my parents are Spanish speakers. So they were very like rude and would give them attitude because they wouldn't like understand what they would tell each other. So myself and my siblings would help my parents out by like calling and like what's called like translating what they were trying to say like back and forth. And I mean, the treatment at the beginning was very harsh. It was very upsetting and very like nerve-wracking because you know they are taking care of one of your family members, and it's like if they can't communicate well enough with them, then it's just, I don't know. It was very stressful.
Do you think if your parents spoke English, that altercation would have never happened?
Yes,
You think they not like you don't think they would be rude to you guys if your parents spoke English?
correct.
Okay. Have you and your family recovered from COVID?
The ones at home, so my mom, my brother, my sister, and myself, yes. We do still like some of us can't smell or taste food still. So that's something we're gonna have to like overcome hopefully soon. But my dad still has COVID, which is why he's still in the hospital.
Is there any explanation as to why your dad isn't getting better and your family and yourself have? Is there any underlying conditions that your dad may have that has put on like back order his recovery?
Honestly, I'd say he's had like previous health issues, but like COVID really, excuse me, attacked him like harder rather than us because I mean it affected his lungs the most. So I mean that's one of the main reasons why he's still hospitalized.
Have you lost anyone due to COVID?
No,
And you mentioned your family or some of your family members and yourself still can't smell or taste. Do you think that's like a post COVID complication?
most definitely.
And do you have any other complications due to COVID?
I'd say maybe this is weird to say, but I like sweat for everything now. And like I just find everything just so hot. Like I'm constantly hot. And I was never like that. I was actually the complete opposite. I was always cold. So
Mhm.
my body has definitely like changed a lot like after like recovering from COVID.
Yeah. So then I'm just going to ask a couple final questions to close off this interview.
Mhm.
Are you satisfied with the local response to COVID-19 in Alamo and Hidalgo County?
Yes.
Are you satisfied with the state response to COVID-19 led by Governor Abbott? Sorry.
No.
And why is that?
I feel like he could put more control over like with like the lockdown and the way he's opened up like businesses or like how soon he has opened up businesses or you know like public places.
Yeah.
Um I just don't think he's done a very good job.
Are you satisfied with the national response to COVID led by President Donald Trump and his administration?
Oh no.
And why is that?
Same reason. I mean, I feel like they they speak on the severity of it but don't really take the right actions
Yeah.
towards it. I mean, death rates are still going up like crazy, and it's just like to this day, we're still struggling with that.
And if you had the power to respond to COVID, what would you have done differently, if anything?
I'd say, um, just be very consistent with the rules of like lockdown and like extremely strict. I mean, that's the way other countries have done it. And so
Yeah.
far, the United States and the type of leadership we've had, it's been horrible. So
And this is a special year in our national democracy because it is a presidential voting year.
mhm.
And my question to you is, did you vote? And if so, did you notice or do anything different because of COVID and the pandemic?
I actually did not vote.
And is there a reason like why you didn't vote?
Religious beliefs.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experiences with COVID that I have not asked about?
No.
Okay, well, this concludes our interview. Thank you for your time with this project. Your stories and experiences are valuable to us at UTRGV, and we are committed to preserving the stories of Mexican Americans and Latinos from South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley, and those who work closely with the population during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Thank you.